He said the world didn't need permission, it needed order. Then he destroyed 3 military bases in 40 seconds. No warning, no survivors, and the only thing left behind was a scorched red cape. The UN called it terrorism. The public called it justice. But the Avengers? They just received one command. Bring Superman down. Alive if possible. Dead if necessary. The incident that changed everything. It wasn't supposed to happen. The man who once stood for hope, justice, and restraint obliterated a military convoy on live satellite feed. No trial. No warning. Just dust, flame, and silence. That morning, the world woke up to one headline. Superman acts without approval. 73 dead. The footage wasn't leaked. It was broadcast. Superman himself released it. In 4K. With a voiceover. This is what happens when power is abused. I'm done asking for permission. The global reaction was chaos. Some cheered. Some cried. Governments panicked. Within minutes, every world leader demanded answers from the Avengers Council. The council fractures. Inside a classified shield bunker, the top-tier Avengers sat in silence. Tony Stark stood with arms folded, watching the hologram replay the blast in slow motion. That's not an accident. That's a choice. Wanda rubbed her temples. His mind, it's not clear anymore. I tried reading him yesterday. Something is dark. Captain America hesitated. He's been under pressure. This isn't who Clark is. Who he was, Chala corrected. Now he's making unilateral decisions with global consequences. Dr. Strange added, time echoes around him are distorted. It's like someone tampered with his fate. I can't see past his next move. Stark stepped forward. So what's the plan? Wait until he targets a city next. No one answered. Stark's warning. 2 days before the attack, Stark had noticed anomalies in satellite activity. Superman was flying to restricted zones, hovering above nuclear weapon depots, unregistered energy facilities, and war zones. At first, it seemed like recon. Now, it looked like pre-strike intel gathering. Tony had warned the council. If you don't contain him now, the world will make us do it later. Now later had arrived. The UN issued Directive 88, a formal order to the Avengers. Neutralize Superman. Capture if possible. Eliminate if necessary. Thor was the first to object. He's not a villain. Chala responded coldly. He's acting without global consent. That's more dangerous than villainy. Even Steve didn't argue. Earth's most dangerous mission. The Avengers didn't move immediately. They planned. Strange used relics to track distortions in the multiverse. Anywhere Superman bent reality around himself, a scar formed in time. Wanda searched old Kryptonian records from the Fortress of Solitude to locate possible weak spots or signs of corruption. Banner ran simulations of Kryptonian biology versus every known sedative on Earth. None worked. So Stark did what he always does, built something no one else could. He designed a Krypton-class dampening field, powered by 3 Stark cores, and woven into a suit forged in Wakanda. Suit's not meant to kill him, Tony explained. Just slow him down long enough for us to talk. Or escape. Because truth was, no one knew if Superman could be stopped. Superman's public message. Just as the Avengers prepared to deploy, Superman released another message. Live. This time standing over a broken missile silo in North Korea. You let governments build weapons of extinction and call it sovereignty. You let corporations poison the skies and call it progress. I've had enough. I will dismantle every system that threatens life, and no one will stop me. Then he flew into orbit, and silence followed. The world reacts. Half the world worshipped him. The other half begged for someone to stop him. For the first time in history, Superman was trending under 2 words. #global threat. And behind closed doors, the whispers started. Was he ever truly one of us? What if he's just tired of saving people who refuse to change? What if he's right? And that was the real danger. Not Superman's strength, but his influence. Because people weren't just scared of him. Some were ready to follow him. The Avengers make a move. Day 4. A location pinged, deep in the Sahara Desert. A sudden gravitational surge. Only one being on Earth could create that kind of disruption. Superman was building something underground. Strange opened a portal. Thor stepped through first. Stark followed, fully armored. Wanda and Cap took position high above the dunes. Inside the cavern, they found a reactor core, massive, pulsating with alien energy. Not Kryptonian, not Terran. He's building a global pulse device, Stark realized. Something that can shut down nukes, satellites, maybe even metahumans. Wanda went pale. He's not trying to destroy Earth. He's trying to reset it. Suddenly, the cavern rumbled. Heat. Wind. A red blur descended. Superman landed in silence. Eyes glowing. Cape still. And said, "I hoped it wouldn't be you." First strike, Avengers vs. Superman begins. The air inside the underground reactor chamber stood still. Then it rippled. Superman hovered above the ground, eyes glowing with energy, cape torn at the edge. His face unreadable. Below him stood Earth's best. Iron Man locked into his Krypton-class armor. Thor with Mjolnir humming, Wanda's fingers glowing red, Cap holding his shield tight, and Strange readying a spell behind them. "Clark," Steve said first, calm but firm, "we're not here to fight you." "You came armed," Superman replied, scanning the tech around Stark's shoulders. "So did I." Behind him, the pulsating core brightened. An alien reactor built from salvaged Kryptonian tech, Atlantean scraps, and unknown off-world circuitry. "What is this?" asked Wanda. Superman answered plainly. "Reset." The first shot. It was Tony who broke the tension. "Look, I get the anger. I even get the plan. But doing it alone makes you the threat now." Superman didn't blink. "You had your chance, Stark. You chose politics. I chose people." The core's frequency rose, high-pitched, vibrating through the walls. Stark's HUD flashed, activation imminent. He launched first, not a kill shot, but a disabling pulse straight at the reactor. Superman moved faster than light. In one motion, he caught the blast with his bare hand, absorbed the energy, and redirected it. The pulse slammed into Iron Man, launching him into the cavern wall, suit sparking. "Engagement confirmed," Strange whispered. And just like that, the battle began. Thor versus Superman. Mjolnir flew first. It struck Superman in the chest and actually pushed him back 2 meters. Thor followed, lightning ripping through the air. "You're not the only god here," he shouted. Superman countered midair, grabbing Mjolnir mid-flight on the return. The moment paused, a god against a symbol. Then he crushed the hammer's head with both hands, lightning exploding around them. Thor's eyes widened. "You broke." Superman punched him through 2 stone walls. Thor was down. Wanda's attempt. Wanda tried next, her chaos magic enveloping Superman in a binding sphere of hex energy. "You're not thinking clearly, Clark," she said, floating above him. "Let me in. Let me help." He looked at her, not with anger, with sadness. Then, slowly, her spell unraveled in front of her eyes. "I've seen too much, Wanda," he said softly. "The world isn't broken because of me. It's broken because of how long we waited to act." And with a blink, he disappeared, reappeared behind her, and whispered, "You waited too long." Then he tapped her back with a seismic pulse, not enough to kill, but enough to drop her instantly. Cap versus Superman. Captain America stood alone now, shield raised, feet steady. "I don't want to do this," he said. "I know," Superman replied. "You always believe in people." "And I still believe in you," Cap insisted. Superman paused. For a second, he actually looked unsure. Then the reactor behind him flickered, a signal pulsed. Cap caught it, a remote trigger. Superman was stalling. "Tony, now," he yelled into comms. Stark, half-broken but conscious, launched an EMP dart toward the reactor core. Superman turned too late. Boom. The core powered down. Not destroyed, but stalled. Superman roared, a deep, furious sound that shook the ceiling. He blurred forward. Cap blocked with his shield, but Superman's strike shattered it in half and sent him flying backward. Strange's counterplay. As Superman prepared to finish the fight, Strange stepped forward, casting a multidimensional containment seal. 3 rings of glowing sigils trapped Superman midair. Strange held the spell with all his focus. "You've become a paradox," Strange said. "You believe in peace, but you've chosen war." Superman struggled in the trap. "I'm trying to stop the cycle," he growled. "By becoming it?" Superman's eyes flashed, and the spell cracked. Just before Strange could reinforce it, the core behind them rebooted. Stark's override failed. The core hummed back to life. "Everyone out!" Tony yelled. The entire cavern started collapsing as the core's pulse surged. Superman broke free and flew upward through the rock ceiling, vanishing into the sky. The team barely escaped through a portal Strange opened in time. Aftermath. Back at Avengers HQ, medical bays were full. Thor concussed. Wanda unconscious. Cap's arm fractured. Tony's armor totaled. Strange exhausted. They hadn't stopped Superman. They hadn't even slowed him. And the reactor? Still operational, with unknown range. Nick Fury entered the room. "You tried diplomacy," he said. "Now we need deterrence." Tony looked up. Meaning, Fury said. "It's time to call the one person Superman still listens to." The team looked confused. Then Strange nodded slowly. "He means Lois." The one weakness. Her name was Lois. Lois Lane hadn't appeared on screen in months. After Superman's shift from savior to global enforcer, the media speculated everything, from a secret split to her being held hostage. But the truth was worse. She had left. Not because she didn't love him, but because she no longer recognized him. The call. At Avengers HQ, Tony Stark stared at the broken shards of his armor on the table. "We lost," he muttered. Wanda sat beside him, still pale. "No, we survived." "That's different." Then Nick Fury entered with urgency and clarity. "There's one person who might still reach him, and we need her now." Tony looked up. "You mean Lois?" "She's in hiding. Off-grid. Shielded. But I know where." Strange warned, if Superman finds out we contacted her, it could trigger his worst side. Fury didn't flinch. "Then let's do it before he finds out." Hidden in Iceland. They found her in an abandoned observatory deep in Iceland's tundra, surrounded by quantum interference towers, designed by Batman years ago in case Superman ever needed space from himself. Lois opened the door herself. No fear. Just tired eyes. "What took you so long?" she asked. Steve Rogers gently approached. "We need your help." Lois raised a brow. "Let me guess, he crossed another line?" Tony jumped in. "We tried everything. Tech magic. Talk. Punches. Nothing worked. But you're different." She paused. Then whispered, "I'm not sure the man you're trying to save still exists." Lois speaks. Back at HQ, she watched the footage. The destruction. The speech. The moment Clark tore Steve's shield in half. But when she saw his face, that split-second flash of regret before he struck, her eyes filled. "That look," she said. "That's still him. Buried but still there." Wanda nodded. "He's not corrupted. He's heartbroken." Tony frowned. "Over what?" Lois answered. "Over hope. He doesn't believe in it anymore. Because the world kept letting him down." A risky plan. They crafted a plan. Lois would speak to him, one-on-one. No tech. No traps. No Avengers in sight. Just a rooftop. A camera. Her voice. "Clark Kent, if you're watching," she began. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to remind you who you were before the world changed." The broadcast. The message went live globally. News stations were hijacked. Social feeds flooded. Superman appeared midair in Cairo, watching a floating screen with her face. "You said the world needs order. Maybe it does. But what it needs more is you. The man who saved a cat from a tree. Who cried when the shuttle exploded. Who held me like the world was ending, even when it wasn't. You don't need to save the planet, Clark. You just need to remember why you ever wanted to." And then she ended with the words that broke him. "If you're still in there, come home." In orbit, Superman floated above Earth, alone. The pulse core hummed silently below him, minutes away from activating a planetary reset. He closed his eyes. Memories flooded in. Holding Lois, flying with Bruce, fighting beside Diana, laughing with Barry, saving a boy from rubble during a flood. The rage trembled inside him. But this time, it didn't win. He looked at Earth again and whispered, "I'm still here. Stand down or stand together." The pulse reactor was ready. Buried beneath Earth's crust, the machine Superman built would send a global shockwave, wiping out all nuclear weapons, AI weapon systems, and enhanced threats as defined by him. To some, it was salvation. To others, domination. But to the Avengers, it was the line. The last attempt. Lois' message had cracked something inside Clark. He hadn't responded. He hadn't attacked. But he also hadn't stopped the countdown. He hovered above the clouds, eyes fixed on the planet below. His voice echoed in the Justice satellite. "This ends in 5 minutes. With or without anyone's permission." That's when the Avengers made their move. Not to fight him, but to give him a choice. Avengers assemble for peace. Strange open portals across the globe, converging the core team atop the Himalayas, the only place shielded from pulse disruption. Thor stood tall, bruised but defiant. Wanda floated beside him, calm but glowing. Steve walked forward with half a shield and a full heart. Tony hovered above, in a rebuilt arc armor, patched, unpolished, but armed. And behind them, Lois. "Clark," she said softly, standing in the cold wind. "Don't do this." Superman landed gently, dust swirling around his boots. He didn't speak. Tony broke the silence. "You win. We lost. But this isn't a win. It's control, and that's never what made you a hero." Clark looked up, red in his eyes. "You think I want to be worshipped? I just want the world to stop burning." Wanda spoke. "Then stop lighting the match." The core power's up. A red alert flashed in Strange's hand mirror. The reactor is entering final phase. Superman turned to fly. Tony moved first, not to attack, but to block. "You do this," Stark said, "and you destroy the very people who still believe in you." Superman replied coldly, "Belief isn't enough. Action is." Then he flew, and Wanda caught him. Her chaos magic wrapped around him midair. Not to hurt him, to slow him. "Just look at her," Wanda said, nodding toward Lois. Clark turned and saw Lois, eyes wet, standing unafraid. "If you push that button," she whispered, "you're not saving anyone. You're erasing everything we built together." The turning point. The reactor pulsed louder. Seconds remained. Superman ripped through the hex field and descended to the reactor vault. The Avengers followed, not to fight, but to stand with him. He landed in front of the console. One touch. That's all it would take. And then, Steve walked forward, unarmed. "If you do this," he said, "we'll rebuild around fear, not trust. And people like you will never be trusted again." Superman stared at him. Then Lois stepped forward and placed her hand on his chest. "You already changed the world, Clark. Just not like this. Shut down." Superman's hand hovered over the panel. Then he closed his fist. A single solar-powered punch into the core. Boom. The reactor collapsed inward, imploding without detonating. Dust filled the chamber. Silence followed. And slowly, Superman fell to his knees. "I just wanted it all to stop," he whispered. Steve placed a hand on his shoulder. "So did we." Global reaction. The news spread in minutes. Superman powers down global weapon. No casualties. Avengers confirm peace. Public opinion flipped overnight. Not because Superman was stopped, but because he chose to stop himself. Redemption or judgment. Superman didn't speak for hours. After destroying the pulse core, he stayed underground, staring into the crater of what he almost unleashed. The Avengers stood with him, not as victors, but as witnesses. This wasn't a war that ended. It was a man who chose not to become a tyrant. But the world didn't see that yet. And now, the question wasn't whether he could be stopped. It was whether he should be forgiven. The world reacts. The media flooded with chaos. Some called Superman a hero again. He shut it down. Others demanded his arrest. He built it in the first place. UN officials scrambled. Politicians fought. Protests erupted. Half the world wanted him honored. The other half wanted him removed forever. And in the middle of it all, the Avengers were silent, because they knew no speech could fix what came next. Council hearing, the trial of power. A global tribunal was formed, 1 rep from each major nation, 2 seats from the UN, and 3 Avengers. Steve Rogers, T'Challa, and Wanda Maximoff. The charge? Unlawful disruption of global defense systems. Unauthorized creation of planetary weapons. Use of superhuman force without jurisdiction. Superman appeared unguarded. No cuffs. No defense team. No excuses. "I don't need forgiveness," he said calmly. "Only truth." The room waited. And then he continued. "You trusted me to act when no one else would. I did. I went too far. But I'd do it again if no one else was willing to stop what's killing this planet." The silence after that wasn't fear. It was honesty. Because deep down, they all knew he wasn't wrong. The verdict. Steve stood first. Intent matters. But so does action. He nearly made a permanent choice for 8 billion people. Wanda added, and yet he chose to stop. He didn't fall. He paused. He listened. T'Challa delivered the final words. "Punish the man, and you scare every hero from ever acting again. But let him walk free, and you tell the world power is untouchable." Then a third path was chosen. The resolution. Superman would not be jailed. He would not return to the skies. Instead, he would step down. No patrol. No symbol. No power above people. He would live among them as Clark Kent. No suit. No missions. Just a man in the world he almost changed forever. 1 year later, a boy slipped on a highway. A truck skidded. No heroes in sight, but a blur flashed through traffic. The boy stood safe on the sidewalk. When asked what happened, he said, "I think someone caught me." He smiled and walked away. Far off in the distance, a man in glasses bought groceries and handed cash to a homeless vet. He wasn't faster than a speeding bullet anymore. But his heart was. And sometimes, that's all a hero needs to be. The Avengers watch. From a rooftop, Tony watched the footage. "He's not done," he said with a smile. Wanda sipped coffee beside him. "Let him believe he is." Steve stood behind them, arms crossed. The world didn't need justice that day. He looked up at the sky. It needed Superman to remember he was human. Final words. Power doesn't corrupt. Isolation does. And even the strongest being on Earth needs someone to hold his hand before he slips. Not to stop him, but to remind him why he chose to rise in the first place. White heavy checkmark, the end.